Hello, everybody. I just want to let you know this will be the most boring half hour of your life. And I will be very proud to be part of that boring half hour that I have stolen from your rich, young lives, talking about words. I will also talk about my life, which has been very unremarkable up till right now. I would like to first tell you how I start out every morning with a vigorous stretch. Please, everyone, stand up. Yes, literally stand up. Thank you. A lot of people feel the need to talk when they stand up. That's the body being confused. Now, before I begin my speech, I would like to share with you my morning stretch called 20-second dance party. And for 20 seconds, I dance like a maniac. And I would like you to do that also. Do you understand? 20 seconds. Let's crank up the tunes. Here we go. The timer's on. Get ready. Here we go. 19 seconds. 8 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Sit down. I had to do that because it's a little weird for me to be up this early. I'm not a teacher or a student, so I usually wake up around 9 o'clock and I start cranking away on pages and writing and things like that. So thank you for letting me see what the morning looks like by having me get up so early. Some of you don't know me, and that's kind of fun. My name is Derrick Brown. As they stated before, I'm a writer, and I never wanted to be one in my life. I thought I would end up being a soldier for the rest of my life, but poetry came and derailed me off of that path pretty quick. When I was in high school, I did not give a rip about writing. I did not care about poetry. I wanted to be a fireman. I wanted to get some money. I wanted to get a wife, maybe squirt out a couple babies, and then my life was going to be set. I had no other dreams than that. But this war was about to break out between Iraq and the U.S. I didn't research it very much at all. I just had this patriotic feeling that I was like, I feel like I should sign up and do something and be part of what's going on. In 1990, I signed up. And I joined the Army and found an amazing mix of people that taught me so much about myself, about what I believed, and about what I needed from this life. When I was in high school, I thought I would never die, that I would never, ever die, that I was invincible, I was pretty limber, okay at volleyball, and those were my superpowers. But when I got in the Army, I thought that death was pretty close. And so I started to see life in a different way. And it totally changed my whole perspective on art and music and how I lived. I started to want to savor every moment. I started to notice like details in trees, and I started to look at the shapes in people's faces. I was kind of just like this throughout life, and it was a total drag. I was wasting my life. And then when I got in the Army, I was like, this could be over tomorrow. My job was that they would throw cannons out of planes, and then they'd throw us out of planes, and we'd land to try and find those cannons, and we'd fire those cannons, and then they'd pick us up with a helicopter to go do it again somewhere else. And I was like, it seems like stuff is going wrong a lot. So I better make peace with my maker and know that like the end is near. One night in a foxhole, you have these little red flashlights so the enemy can't see you. You can't smoke a cigarette, you can't turn on a white light or you could get shot. So you have these little red flashlights, and I was in my foxhole, and I was opening up this book of Psalms, and I didn't really understand a lot of the words in the Bible's book of Psalms. So I took out a pen, and I started to rewrite my own versions of the Psalms, which could be considered sacrilege, but I had nothing to do for hours in this dark hole by myself on guard duty. And all of a sudden, these deer came out in front of me in the forest, and I was all alone. And they stopped right in front of me, and my helmet was poking out right above the lip of the foxhole. And I was staring out, and I was like, this is one of the most beautiful things ever. They started to dance and jump around in a circle. I don't know if it was a mating ritual or what, but I was witnessing something that was incredible, that seemed like a miracle. After that, I started to write my own words quite a bit, and I couldn't stop. And I knew that there was something dorky about my writing, but it was making me feel good, like when you confess something or when you talk to a therapist or something. Afterwards, I'd be like, ugh, I know this isn't good, but I feel good having written it. And when I got out of the Army, I went to this community college, and the next step for me was a friend of mine said, come to this coffee shop. And people are sharing their work. And I was like, why? Why would they do that? How embarrassing and stupid. And I'll check it out. It sounds entertaining. I go to this coffee shop, and people that were hippies, weirdos, drunks, psychos, unstable people, geniuses, all of them would take 3 or 5 minutes, and they'd share a piece of work that they'd written, and I was blown away. It was so scary and naked to share all this dirt that you had buried inside you. And so I decided to make a spoof of it, and I would write these joke confessional poems that weren't very good. And there was one poet who came along, his name was Jeffrey McDaniel, and he saw like a little weird spark in me. He's like, for some reason, you're writing. There's a reason the muse has come down and struck you like lightning, and there is a reason that you must keep doing it even though there's no money. And I was like, I have no idea what it is. I thought I would be a fireman or a paratrooper for the rest of my life. And he's like, all right, I'm going to do my set. He goes up there and he does these poems that like blew me away and had these different levels of writing, and I was like, I need to learn to do that. He had this line where he goes, in some other world, gigantic seashells held humans up to their ears, but all they hear are the echoes of machines. And I was like, what? How did you get there, dude? Oh my gosh, first you're saying like this beautiful image, and then you flip it on its head and talk about how we are distracted by all of the technology around us. Oh my gosh, I needed this so much. I needed to know what poetry could do, which was knock you on your butt and also set up a scene of beauty. I want to get to that level. So I naively said, how do I get good? What do I do? And he's like, all right, let's start with phase 1, which is reading a buttload of poetry. Phase 2, which is writing a whole bunch of poetry and making sure you're not ripping off the work that you were reading. And then phase 3, learn to share it out loud with people and see what happens. So when I was beginning, I would write these kind of funny love poems, and then eventually a little bit of depth and warmth started to come out. When I first kicked it off, though, they were kind of like this poem that I wrote called Valentine's Day in Dresden. So here we go. This is from the book Scandalabra. I feel as ridiculous as faith-based food, directionless like rain in outer space when you reach for me. Do not unfurl vanilla fantastic at all this black molasses. Our love would be as dumb as a bomb on a boomerang. Dentists, boycott your sweet kitty teeth. Now, Something I learned quickly before I continue this poem was that a poetry show was an interactive experience. I know it's early in the morning, but it's okay to laugh and go, huh, or like, or like, So let's practice it together. If I say something that's like a little interesting to you, you can go, let's try that. 1, 2, 3, And then if you're pumped on that line and you think it's pretty good, you can go, uh-huh. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Yes, that's the fire that I like. Okay, so let's keep going. Dentists boycott your sweet kitty teeth, figs in your lips. Let's not fall in love. I'm tired of stroking that cat. Do not show me that you're an observatory of wet, hot bummers and boy germs. Don't come to me all dressed up in a peanut butter and nightmare sandwich. I will not bite. Your eyes as boring as a desert photograph. I know your type. I know your font. Wink beans, Zap dingbats, Verdana wide, Comic Sans sadness. You're a European mess rolling around in a favorite dress with a mouth full of hell and a chest full of hell yes. Big deal, your eyes are green and gray. Shut off the night vision, you creep. You kiss me on the throat. What is wrong with you? You know that's where I make my money. You made my heart go all Max Roach. The rude rising noise of you. Our love is just going to be a constant bungled stumbling into each other's gross. It is going to be like throwing pasta against the wall to see if we're done. I know your favorite drink is casual tea. Don't pour it on me. Get me to the hospital. I'll have to tell the doctors how good I was feeling the day I met you and beg them to operate to get me back to poetry normal. Speak sugar all you want. I don't believe what you say, but I appreciate your tone. My love, you are my start. So there was this world I was introduced to that I did not understand. It was this open mic poetry world. Raise your hand if you've ever been to a poetry open mic. Cool. Just you. This is awesome. I'm your first exposure to this sort of thing. I can't wait to tell you, go check it out. So these different coffee shops, sometimes high schools will have them on campus. A poetry open mic is where you get to share a piece you wrote that's like 3 to 5 minutes long, and everyone takes turns, and there's an MC, and there's usually music in between. And I would go to these coffee shops, and people would share the craziest things that some people would get naked and read, which I think you get sued for now. Some people would scream the whole time. Some people would have anger-filled poems, and some people would share grief and depression. And I fell in love with not only writing, but getting a chance to share it out loud because it made me connect with people. And I was like, oh, you're going through some dark stuff too? I'm going through some dark stuff too. Thank you for having the guts to capture what it is you're going through, because it captured it for me too. So I became hooked on poetry, and I was like, I am totally screwed. I do not know how I'm going to make money at this thing, and I'm just going to see how it goes. So I wrote, and I tried to get better, and I made these things called chapbooks. And I realized at a young age that not only am I going to have to get good at writing, I'm going to have to get good at promoting myself, because I don't know anyone who is making it as a poet. Novelists are killing it. Short fiction writers are killing it. But I didn't know any poets who were making a full living unless they were teachers. So I was like, I've been in a band, a rock band. I'm going to try and do a life like a rock band, but as a poet. So I decided to reach out to venues and clubs with a press kit like a band would have, and I'd send like a cassette of me reading poems to make sure that I didn't read like a tool, and that it would be okay. And then I started to see, like, can I come up to San Francisco and read my work? All of it naive wonderings, where I'm like, is this how this goes? And they're like, yeah, sure, you can read at our bookstore. And then I was like, okay, great. How do I get people there? Oh, my gosh. Let me ask someone I know. Like, do you have any friends that would come? Would you open up for me? And then your friends could come, and then we could put on a fun show. And it started to work. So for years, I was amazed that my life was, I was pretty broke, but I was traveling around on people's couches, sharing work, and the word started to spread like fire. And then it spread over to Europe, and I got a chance to tour over in Europe, which is crazy. The great thing about that is that when you get to read in another country, usually the promoter of the show lives in, say, Munich. They'll let you crash on their couch, and then you get to explore the city with them. And they're like, don't go there, that's where the tourists go. Don't go there, there's a lot of crime over there. This is the restaurant you want to check out. And you're like, oh my gosh. It's like I paid thousands of dollars to like this private travel agency to show me the world. And it opened my eyes even more, and I became even deeper hooked in the claws of poetry, where I was like, I need this thing. This thing's making me feel the most alive I've ever felt in my life. I feel like every dirty thing, every heavy thing that I burdened, for whether it was family or job, I was gushing out through poetry, and then I was learning the craft through friends, through workshops, and then I was getting to tour around also. So even though the money wasn't strong, you'd make like about, at that time, about $150 to $200 from passing the hat around the show. I was figuring out a way to make enough to live and cover flights and trains and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a life. I'm going to share another poem with you right now. And then I'm going to ask a couple questions. Sometimes the question and answer portion of a speaker kind of is not cool. Because nobody wants to ask any questions, and I sit there asking myself questions, and I seem nutso. So if you have questions, or like, what does he do? Or like, why does he do what he does? Or how does he run? How does he stay alive in this? Could I stay alive being a creative artist? Please get those questions prepped in your mind as I share this next poem with you right now. I started to go from writing wacky stuff to more personal things. And I remember that there was this moment I had with my mother. And sometimes when I write, I will just write down on a little napkin a tiny moment. And one of the moments I wrote down was my mom dropped her wedding ring down the garbage disposal. And I was like, what does that mean? What is that moment? That's kind of poetic that she still wears her wedding ring even though she's been divorced for a long time. So I wrote this poem for her after many drafts. This is called Meatloaf, and it's about my mama. My mother is washing the dishes and singing a song about someone dancing on the moon. She stops to pat the globe of her stomach, so full, so full. I help her with the dirty meatloaf dishes, pass them from the table. The gunk slides through the soap, and the green goo slips across her strong hands. There's a flash of light every time she turns her palm through the soap. My mother has a small diamond that she received on her wedding day, given to her by my father as a symbol. It was very affordable. I always asked her why a diamond meant that you loved someone. Why not give someone a brick, a snail, or a wombat? Why not give them a cat's brain to show them that you're crazy about them? Why not give someone a pair of handcuffs to show the world that this person will be doing time with you forever? Why not give them a trophy of zombie lipstick to prove that you will kiss their brains out forever? There's dishwashing liquid in a brigade of bulging bubbles, and the tink spink of moving plates, and my mother is singing again. To her, the diamond ring is a cheap special reminder. She says when she first saw the ring, it caught light, and it shot it into her eye like fresh grapefruit. She says my sister and I did that too. The filthy forks sifted through her hands as the disposal burled. She stops singing, turns off the disposal. Her face turns the color of the kitchen sink walls. Water off, she tosses through the plates, pulls out the rubber doodad to check the garbage disposal, continues this for 10 minutes. I wait for her to say it. I can feel my face ready to burst like a cloud. She says, "It's gone." I can't believe we were just talking about it, and it's gone. She pats my head, hands me a paper towel. I say, "It's okay, Mom. It's just a thing." She says, "Not really." She starts to weep a little, excuses herself, goes to the bathroom to blow her nose, returns, kisses my head, goes back to washing the dishes with me, scanning every bubble's gleam for that rock. I roll my damp paper towel into a ring shape, hand it to her, and I say, "Ma, if we weren't blood, I'd marry you, and I'd stick around." She replies, "That is sweet, Derrick. A little weird, but sweet." I know what you're trying to say. She grabs some tape so the paper ring would stay wrapped up. I sneak outside to the neighbor's place, steal her a brick from their garden. When I come back in, she smiles and begins to sing that song of someone somewhere dancing on the moon, a song about a boy spinning in the dark with one beam of light. It's an honor to be here, Wildcats. I love getting to talk about this strange thing that caught fire in me a long time ago. And it is going to be so awesome because if you don't know what you want to do with the rest of your life, you just try a bunch of stuff, and then one of them you will do even if there's no money. You'll be like, "Oh my gosh, this is my thing." I tried bass. I tried being a runner. I tried playing soccer. Everything I was terrible at, I tried until I was like, this is not sticking at all. And then poetry, I was like, oh, lightning. It got me good. Are there any questions? I know it takes courage to be the first person to ask questions. I know that one of you has a lot of courage to start off the steamroll. If you have a question, please raise your hand right now. Let me start with you in the white sweater. Yes. Yeah, she said, have I written anything besides poetry? And the answer is yes. I realized about 10 years ago that not only did I love poetry because of how fast it reached people, like if you go on a tour and read from your short stories, which are in some of my books, you kind of have to stop mid-story and be like, so the summary is that in 10 pages, they will fall in love and then someone will get hit by a train, but it's actually kind of sweet. I don't know. You can't really explain. You have to read the story. And then you don't get that full sense of ending that you get from a poem that's like 5 minutes long. And so usually when I tour, I do it for poetry. If I open up for a rock band, I'll do poems set to music, and I'll start with mostly funny stuff. And then I will end with some fun, heavy stuff. And so I just wrote a musical that goes up April 3rd. It's about the world record holder for getting struck by lightning 7 times, and he still kept his job as a park ranger. So I found that I love writing, and I love a poetic style of writing. I love these little nuggets, these little blasts of metaphors and similes that get to me fast. So I insert those into my short stories and my musicals. Good question. Yes, right here. Oh, you're absolutely welcome. I'm glad I did it. What's cool about the Army was that it's the hardest thing I'll ever done, and it's behind me. And I also got to meet tons of amazing people. And then I also got to see how far you can push your body, especially when somebody else pushes you. Your body and your mind are beyond incredible. Because like if I go for a run, maybe 3 miles or something like that, and then I'm like, I'm pooped. But if someone's screaming at me like, keep going, you maggot, I'll be like, all right, let me throw up. And then I'm like, wow, I ran 8 miles. That's crazy. So that was a cool thing I learned from that also. Any other questions? Right here in the white. How does an idea spark? How does an idea spark is the question. A lot of authors get asked the question, where do ideas come from? And the answer from screenwriters, directors, photographers is usually, I don't know. It's this thing of magic. And the best answer to a version of that question is, where do ideas come from, is figuring out how to open yourself up and be ready for the magic to fall from wherever it comes. Some will say your brain, some say it comes from the heavens, some will say it's from slowing down and noticing beauty. But if you are really busy and wrapped up in bills and thinking about your relationship all the time and thinking about your job and the person that you bummed out in your life, you really aren't open to the universe sending you information, which is called inspiration. So everyone has a process to get ready for the sparks. And what I do is, my process is that I have to clean the house. Dishes have to be done, the bed has to be made so that I don't think about it. So I've cleared that from my mind. I make a to-do list of stuff that has to get done. I knock a couple things off, and that joy of moving a line through it is a true joy. And then it's writing time from like 9 to 11, 9 to 11:30. And I close my eyes, and I take deep breaths, and sometimes I put down a piece of paper, and I will open my eyes and I'll just start writing furiously without stopping. And I'm trying to do a dump of the day and the week and get it all out. And I'm not trying to make it good. I'm just letting it all out. And then I'll look at that piece of paper and say, oh, here's a strange thing that's called glacier power. I wonder if that could be a line in a poem, so I'll circle that. I'll be like, okay, today I'm writing about being lost at sea, that time I was lost at sea. I really want to write about that because that's kind of how I feel in relationships sometimes. All right, boom, I write my Lost at Sea poem. It's not very good, and then I throw some of the images that I wrote, circled earlier into that thing. But how does the Lost at Sea spark come that kicks off the original thing? For me, I just start to review moments in my life or moments that I'll capture by walking around and noticing things, and then I'll try and connect it to something else. For example, a glacier has an interesting kind of blue, and I've seen that in people's eyes before. And I might try and connect that because I've never heard that before. And I might say that not your eyes are as blue as rivers. I might say your eyes are as blue as a broken glacier. And boom, all of a sudden I have a brand new, fresh metaphor that I've never heard before. And that excites the poet inside me. And I'm like, ooh, I want to talk about what eyes do to people, or the magic in someone's eyes, or oh my gosh, I saw my friend Dion eat a pig's eye once. Ooh, what does that mean? So I'll try and write as long as possible, and then I'll trim it back after I have those initial sparks. Cool. I'll take 2 more questions, and then I'll do another poem. Who raised that hand a little higher? Oh, here on the left, yes. The question is there a certain point that I felt confident in my writing? So a great question. So from 91, I was, let's see, I think I was 18 or 19 in 91, and then I got out of the Army in 93. It took from 91 till 96 of going and writing and taking workshops and listening to other people and reading until I had a poem where I was like, oh my gosh, this poem is knocking me on my butt. There's something about this where I'm laughing while I'm writing it because I feel like the muse is writing this. This energy that I've witnessed in the universe is coming through me, and this is hilarious. And it looks like I'm laughing at myself, like, you're so good. But I'm like, this is amazing that this is possible, that someone like me can just open up a little bit and be ready for inspiration, and then you can catch it. Some people say that if you don't catch it, it will go to someone else. And so I want to greedily take all of that inspiration. I had inspiration for those 6 years, but only looking back could I be like, I didn't try hard enough in those first 5 years to make the poems fresh and engaging enough. And I was just excited to read it out loud without editing it, showing it to my peers, trying to make it connect the best way. So I'd say until 96, about 5 years into my writing career, did I finally have a poem where I was like, this poem's way different than those poems. Hooray for progress. And I'll do one more question. Yes, right here. I find that I need range. The question was, you wrote a serious poem and a funny poem, which is my favorite. I need both. Sometimes if I go to a poetry show, it's all heavy. It's all true life trauma. And then I'll be like, here's one about eating a tennis racket or blah, blah, blah. And I'll do the opposite. There's some sort of rebellion inside me that I noticed at a young age where if everyone's doing really funny poems, I'll be like, here's a poem about losing someone. Everyone's like, oh gosh, this contrarian in me is very real. And I've recognized it at an early age. But I try not to use it as a jerk. So I need, I sometimes have poems that have some funny in it and some heavy. And I noticed something in my young writing career where it's like every time you share a poem, it's like being on a date where you don't want to hammer people with your problems right away. You can lure them in with comedy and then hit them like a hammer with the heavy once their hearts are open and their minds are ready. They're like, comedy, okay, I trust this person. And then they're like, you do? This thing happened. You're like, oh, now I'm affected extra. And it's a little manipulative, but it's so effective when sharing work and figuring out like how to open people up. Because we're so closed off, we're so scared to share. And I love that poetry goes against that. So I like both. Let's see here. It is currently 4 minutes, so I'm going to share one last poem. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being smarties. Sometimes you go to a place and you do a workshop, and then someone's like, where'd you get your shirt? I was like, oh, boy. So I'm going to read a poem that tries to do the very thing we just mentioned, that dives into a little funny and a little heavy. I wanted to write a poem about missing someone, and then I also wanted to write about my weird shower curtain. And I was like, how will these connect? Let's see. This is called The Estonian Islands and the Great Shampoo Calamity. It goes like this. Eventually, we were all bored by elegance. The entire world fits on my $10 shower curtain. Makes me feel close to $1,000 Tahitian dawns. And the Cook Islands don't seem impossible when I'm soaping up my knees, neighbors of South Africa. Does anyone have that shower curtain that has the world on it? You can get from Target for $9? No? You should get it. It's fun to take a shower and be like, I've never been any of these places. I shower into pure gloss, skin hot, bubble stubble, power washing my face, flooding the shores of Estonia. Dry off by rolling on the clean white comforter. The bed is higher because I bought risers to fit more crap under it. I see your little desert-busted ankle boots and holy kid blankets. Winter uniforms all stanked in must. And I can't sleep here. And I love your crap. And I can't make a bed without you. The fitted sheet is a one-person nightmare. I stare at my shower curtain map. In Greenland, my eyelash is a 6-hour drive. In Luzon, my elbow demolishes a quiet beach. This is a heavy, massive world that I'll never get old enough to see in its entirety. I want to. I'm too poor. I self-desire too late. I tried to tell my hair to wait and not leave me for Easter Island, and it doesn't listen. It leaves me too soon, too. I tried to work overtime to afford to see the Corn Islands of Nicaragua, but I spent it on a drone that also left as I fumbled the controls. Swear to God, bought the drone, flew it once, and watched it go away. I curl into your old spot. I swear I didn't touch your stuff. Come back. Tasmania is fading in the downpour as a man punishes his neighbors 4 times a day, singing too long, calling for you across this tiny world, missing the steamed-out morning duets of us. Come home, and dream of getting lost for good. Thank you all for listening, everybody. I'm Derrick. Wow. You can do this. Cheers.